Before I tell you how my own brother tried to erase me from $73,000 of my own money, let me paint you one picture. You are standing in a driveway you helped pay for, the concrete beneath your feet, the gutters you funded one winter when nobody else could, and your brother is leaning against the doorframe of that house with his arms crossed, telling you calmly, like he is reading off a grocery list, that your name was never on anything, that you were a helper, not an owner, that there is no record, and his wife is standing just behind his left shoulder, completely still, watching your face the way people watch a door they have already locked from the inside. I did not cry. I did not raise my voice. I turned around, got in my car and drove to my attorney's office. Because 4 days earlier, I had already started moving. Before the story gets darker, like this video, subscribe to the channel and tell me in the comments what city you are watching from. Because betrayal does not always come from strangers. Sometimes it sits at your kitchen table, calls you brother, and waits for you to stop paying attention. My name is Marcus Ellison. I'm 58 years old, and I spent 31 years working as a licensed electrician in Portland, Oregon. I started as an apprentice at 22 with borrowed tools and a second-hand truck. I worked nights in warehouses, weekends in new construction sites, holidays in buildings nobody else would touch. My hands still carry the calluses from decades of conduit work in cold crawl spaces. I missed my daughter's first school play because of an emergency hospital contract. I missed my own 40th birthday dinner because of a commercial rewiring job that ran 16 hours long. But I built something real. Over those 3 decades, I saved methodically, not glamorously, not easily. And eventually I had a paid-off house in northeast Portland, a retirement account, and a sizable amount of savings I had set aside for what I called the Family Investment Fund. My wife, Carol, passed away from a cardiac event 6 years ago. After that, family became everything to me. That was the opening they needed. My brother Derek is 51, 7 years younger than me. Growing up, I was the one who fixed things, drove him places, lent him money without keeping track. He always had a talent for seeming almost responsible, just convincing enough. When he married Sonia 4 years ago, she seemed sharp and organized in a way Derek never was. Together, they started talking seriously about property investment, flipping homes, building equity, creating something lasting. Derek knew I had capital sitting in low-yield savings. He also knew that after Carol died, I wanted purpose more than I wanted interest rates. The first red flag came during a Sunday barbecue in the summer. Derek mentioned a duplex he had his eye on in Gresham. Then he looked at me and said almost casually, "With your backing, we could split it clean down the middle." I remember thinking it sounded reasonable. I remember thinking, he is my brother. I excused the casualness because that was just Derek. I should have paid closer attention to Sonia's expression when he said it. She was not surprised. She had heard that line before. The first incident was small. Derek asked me to wire $22,000 as an initial deposit on the Gresham duplex. He said the official paperwork naming both of us would follow once the title company finished processing. It never came. When I asked about it 3 weeks later over the phone, Derek said the attorney was backed up and not to worry. I let it go. The second incident came 2 months after that. Derek asked me to co-sign what he described as a renovation loan, just to speed up the approval process. He said my credit would not be affected long term. I signed the document at his kitchen table while Sonia brought us coffee. I did not read it carefully enough. I trusted the room. The third incident was when Derek suggested I transfer my remaining investment share, another $51,000, directly to an LLC he and Sonia had formed. He said it was cleaner for tax purposes, that it protected both of us. I wired the money in 2 installments. By this point, I had given $73,000 to a venture where I had seen no formal ownership documentation, no title filing, and no LLC agreement with my name on it. When I asked to see the paperwork once more at a family dinner last March, Derek reached over and patted my arm. "Marcus, relax. You're my brother. What am I going to do, rob you?" Everyone at the table laughed. I laughed too. That is the part that still embarrasses me most. The discovery came on a Tuesday morning in April. I was at my workbench at home sorting old files when I found the folder of emails Derek and I had exchanged during the early stages of the duplex purchase. I had not looked at them in over a year. I started reading. In one email from Derek dated 14 months earlier, he had written, and I am quoting from memory now, "Once the title clears, we list you as 50% stakeholder, same as discussed." I printed that email. Then I pulled up the county property records online. Something I should have done months earlier. The Gresham duplex was listed under a single owner, Derek Allen Ellison, no LLC, no joint title. My name did not appear anywhere in the record. I sat at that workbench for a long time. I did not slam anything. I did not call anyone. I just felt this slow, cold understanding move through me like a current finding ground. Everything rearranged itself into one clear picture. I was not an investor. I had never been a partner. I had been a funding source with no paperwork and a habit of trusting my brother. That same afternoon, I opened a new personal email account Derek had no knowledge of. I forwarded every relevant email between us, 14 months of correspondence, to that account and printed hard copies of each one. I then accessed my bank records and compiled statements showing every transfer I had made to Derek and the LLC account. The dates, the amounts, the reference notes. $73,000, documented transaction by transaction. I called a real estate attorney named Patricia Odom, who had handled Carol's estate years earlier. I described the situation in full. She asked me 3 questions, listened carefully, and then said, "Come in Thursday. Bring everything." I did not tell Derek. I did not call Sonia. I did not post anything. I went about the rest of that week as though nothing had shifted. That Sunday, Derek texted me asking if I wanted to come over for dinner. I said I was busy with a job. He replied with a thumbs up. He had no idea I had spent the previous 3 evenings building a paper case against him at my dining room table. The following Saturday, Derek called asking to meet. He said he had exciting news about the duplex. A buyer had made a strong offer and he wanted to discuss splitting the proceeds. I agreed to meet him at a coffee shop in northeast Portland. When I arrived, Sonia was already there. That told me everything I needed to know about what they had planned. Derek pulled out a folded document across the table. He slid it toward me. It was a single-page agreement offering me a one-time payment of $9,000 as a, quote, good faith investment return, in exchange for my signed release of any future claims to the property. He was smiling the way people smile when they believe the conversation is already over. Sonia had a pen out before I said a word. I looked at the document for a moment. Then I looked up at my brother. "Derek," I said, "you put in writing that I would be a 50% stakeholder. The property sold for $310,000. His smile did not leave immediately. It faded slowly, like lights dimming. I placed Patricia's business card on the table. She filed a civil claim on the property proceeds Thursday morning. The title company has already been notified of the dispute. Sonia's hand with the pen lowered to the table. Derek looked at the card for a long time without speaking. Then his voice came out smaller than I had ever heard it. "Marcus, come on, we are brothers." I stood up, put on my jacket, and said the only thing left to say. "Yes, that is why I gave you the money. You should have remembered that before you took it." Patricia moved efficiently. The civil suit cited the documented email correspondence as proof of a verbal and written agreement establishing joint ownership. The title company froze disbursement of the sale proceeds pending resolution of the dispute. Derek hired an attorney who initially argued the emails were informal and non-binding. Patricia countered with the wire transfer records, the LLC co-signature document, and the original correspondence. 3 months later, in a Multnomah County courtroom, the judge ruled that the evidence demonstrated a clear pattern of financial inducement under fraudulent representation. Derek was ordered to return $61,000 of the $73,000 I had transferred plus court fees. The buyer's purchase ultimately went through, but Derek and Sonia walked away from that sale with almost nothing after the settlement and their own legal costs. Patricia shook my hand outside the courthouse. She said simply, "The emails saved you." An old colleague of mine named Ray, who had known Derek for years and quietly suspected something was wrong, drove me home that afternoon. He did not say much. He just bought me coffee and sat with me while I looked out the window. I have not spoken to Derek since the courthouse. I do not expect to. What surprised me most in the weeks that followed was not the relief. It was the grief. You spend 5 decades knowing someone is your brother, and then one afternoon in April, you sit at a workbench reading old emails and you realize the shape of them was always a little wrong. Sonia called once, about a month later. I did not answer. That evening, I sat on my back porch with coffee going cold in my hands and listened to the neighbor's dog barking 2 houses down. A perfectly ordinary sound. The maple tree in my yard had just started coming back green. Carol planted that tree the first spring we moved in. I thought about her for a long time. I thought about how she always said Derek needed watching. I told her she was too suspicious. I owe her an apology she will never hear. Here is what I know now that I did not know then. Trust given without documentation is not generosity. It is an invitation. And the people most likely to accept that invitation without guilt are the ones who already know you will not ask questions, because love trained you not to. I do not say this with bitterness. I say it as a man who learned it $73,000 too late. Protect what you build, even from the people who watched you build it. If this story stayed with you, subscribe and leave your city in the comments. It means more than you know. I will see you in the next one.